Say what? Oh, this is Brian. Call me Mean Old Levy, taught you to weep and moan gardener, coming to you from the Devil's Hole, aka Ramble on Towers Dungeon Studio in scenic Hespeler, Ontario. You are listening to Ramble on Radio, episode 138 on the Off the Cuff Podcasting Network. Where was I? Ramble on Radio is the only Led Zeppelin podcast on this or any other known internets. Be sure to go to rambleonradio.com for all your Led Zeppelin news, reviews, and any links I might mention during the show. You can subscribe to Ramble on Radio through iTunes. Don't forget to leave a review. If you go to iTunes, stop in, leave something of a review, a star, 2 stars, or 5 stars, and it helps Apple. It tells Apple that people are listening to this, which bumps it up in their algorithms. You can also find us on Google Play now. It's now available on Google Play. Same applies, I believe, in terms of reviewing. It's also available on Podbean. And they also have their own streaming app. And it's a Podbean at I Am Brian Devitt. And you can listen on Stitcher Radio as well. And check out Ramble on Radio on YouTube. I'm now putting these videos on on YouTube as videos. And in the past, I'd done so. I got 3 or 4 people looked at it. For some reason, the YouTube side seems to have taken off. I'm starting to get people saying, "Hey, put more up, put more up." And the last one had over. So far, has had over 100 people look at it. It's doing quite nicely there. Unfortunately, YouTube has just changed how they monetize things, so I'm not making any money at that. I need to get about 400,000 people or something to start monetizing, which previously I could have maybe made a few dollars, paid a few fees, but no big deal. And finally, you can follow Ramble on Radio on Facebook and at Ramble on Blog on Twitter, and I've been doing a pretty good job so far of just, if not every day, every other day, getting something on Facebook and getting something on Twitter, trying to keep those pages active. I should mention the only Led Zeppelin podcast. However, Carol Miller's Get the Lead Out has their 1-minute snippets of their On This Day, which is a radio show, not a podcast, but they are podcasting them. You can find them certainly on iHeartRadio and on Stitcher Radio. I don't know if they're on Google Play or iTunes as of yet. Last time I checked, they weren't on iTunes. And of course, The Heart of Darkness, which does Jimmy Page related. Thus far, he's done some live Jimmy Page and talked about that sort of thing. Not a Led Zeppelin podcast, according to Mark himself, but very much a Jimmy Page related podcast, and well worth the listen on both of those things. All right, the intro music, that was, I pulled that out for interest. That was January 20, 1975 in Chicago, When the Levee Breaks. It is one of 2 known times they played this. The other was in a sound check. So they sound checked it in Brussels, and then they played it this on January 22nd, 75, so 30, 43 years ago this very week. And it was also rumored to be played the next night. Now, Jimmy Page had his broken finger, and this was early in the 75 tour. His finger was broken, and so he could play with a slide easier than fingering. It gave his finger a bit of a rest. It was rumored to be played on the 22nd, but no full show. That show doesn't exist in bootleg, so we can't confirm that. And by we, I mean, I don't know, whoever does that. They're certainly not me. But so, as far as I know, it's the only known recording of a live version of It Keeps It Rated. I apologize, by the way, how I sound. I've just this evening developed quite a bad snuffling thing going on here, and I'll try to contain it here. I can't just shut it off and walk away because of the YouTube thing, though. So we'll have to see how this goes, how this works. It's just run up, and it's probably go away in the next 12 hours, but hold on 1 second, please. Okay, in history this week, January 20, 1969, Led Zeppelin is rumored to have played the Wheaton, Texas show, a show in Wheaton, Texas. This is the subject of a film called Led Zeppelin Played Here. And the show is supposedly happened. The film, I believe, decided that they did play there. But it's an unconfirmed show. In 1975, on the 27th of January, the tour was just a week or 10 days old, and they canceled the show in St. Louis. Robert Plant started the tour with influenza. Jimmy Page with a broken finger, not a good start. They had a little break in there, and they canceled the St. Louis show and actually took off for 4 days into the south. Came back a lot healthier. That tour got off to a bit of a rocky start, but got better as it went along. On the 31st of January 1969, first of 2 nights at the Fillmore East in New York City. I was reading an article this week, interestingly, about... sorry, I apologize for this, I really do. I was reading an article this week about the Anderson Theater, where the Yardbirds, of course, recorded. And it was the village of New York City. And, of course, the Fillmore West was run by Bill Graham out in San Francisco, and he came to New York to open a place, and he talked to the guys who had the Anderson Theater. They had a nice little thing going on there. It had only been open as a rock theater for about a year, and they had Janis Joplin there, her first New York City performance, of course the Yardbirds, some others. They had a good little thing going on, and then so Bill Graham showed up and kind of said, I want to open a Fillmore East. I like what you guys are doing. I like your setup. How about we do this together? You could run the New York stuff while I'm out west, and blah blah blah. And I guess the guy who was in charge of it all, really got rude and really got nasty with him and told him, go F himself. Who do you think you are coming into our town? And so Bill Graham came in, basically pilfered all their technical people, and poached the staff, and put them out of business within a week. That's what happened to the Anderson Theater, apparently. Zeppelin played the Fillmore East in New York 2 nights, and the first of the 2 nights, they apparently blew Iron Maiden completely off the stage. Iron Maiden was the headlining act, and it was one of those not fair type of things. The second in '69, they played the Rock Pile show, and was it 2 summers ago, I got to go to the former rock site of the former rock, where the Rock Pile was, and Jimmy Page did the listening party for Coda, In Through the Outdoor, and I guess Presence, and that was at the former Rock Pile. They played there February 2nd, '69, and February 3rd, 1986, the Firm, Mean Business was released, the second and last Firm album. All right, so this week, just yesterday, it was announced that How the West Was Won is being remastered, released March 23rd. The whole remastering campaign that Jimmy Page has been on for quite some time is now, this is the last of them. This is it. But it's How the West Was Won, which is kind of my least favorite of their live albums. And some of the material's great. They're playing great. And so maybe with a remastering, this sounds better. It's actually quite expensive, $140 for 4 LPs. There's no bonus material, no LA Drone, the New York mix, or anything like that. It's just a straight reissue, been remastered. It's going to be on LP. It's going to be on DVD or a Blu-ray, audio Blu-ray. It's going to be on, high-def downloads, all that stuff. It's got the full, and a box, and the book, and all that stuff is occurring. But no bonus material, no new material. But the issue with this is, if you go to the audiophile sites, they really don't have a lot of time for this album. It is what they call brick-walled. To let you know what that is, whenever you do, whenever you record something, you put on your record from the 70s. A lot of times, forgive me a second here. Sorry, YouTube guys. So a lot of guys are, So the what happens is, whenever you get a sound wave, a sound file. The music's dynamic. It's loud. It's soft. It's hard. It goes up and down. And even if I look at the sound file of just me talking, it goes up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. They put compression on it. And compression does is it brings the ups down and it brings the downs up. So what you wind up with is you've compressed it. You've brought it closer and closer together, so that you get less of that dynamic range. Now, the reason for doing this is if you've ever been in your car and there's a soft part of the music, and you turn it up. Listen. Or it actually happens in movies. What are they saying? What are they saying? And you turn it up. You turn it up. You turn it up. Then all of a sudden there's an explosion. And it knocks you off your seat. Oh my Christ, it's too loud. And you turn it down. Or you do that in the car and it goes from soft to loud or something. And I'm waving my hands around. Sorry, I just hit the microphone there. You go soft to loud and you get, that explosion of sound happens. So they kind of bring the two together by compressing, especially, and it's a modern thing. This, more do it now because more people are listening on earbuds and headphones and in the cars, where that kind of dynamic range causes those kind of problems. If you're listening at home on your stereo, it doesn't tend to be that big a deal if there's a jump in volume. It more so if you're earbuds in or if you're in your car, a more closed environment like that. So they lay on the compression, and then they turn up the volume to kind of compensate for that compression. And what happens is, if you get if you take the file, if you take a file of it, a digital file, and create a sound file, or you can visually see the sound. And if you take a song from a '70s album sort of thing, it'll be up and down and up and down, and it'll look like a heart monitor. Those you see the doctor's up, something like that. Anyway, it's not specifically like that, but if you take a one that's been heavily compressed and then the volume turned up, it looks like literally a brick wall. It's a straight line, and so they call it brick walling. It's been brick walled, and How the West Was Won is notoriously a brick walled album. Now, it means nothing to me. Means nothing to you, right? I'm not an audiophile type. The audiophile types get silly about this stuff. But what happens is, you hear it and you think, I don't like that, but you don't know why. So then you hear. So sometimes I've had this happen. A good example is Southbound Soiree of Into the Outdoor. I liked that song when it first came out, and I always liked that song. And then somewhere along the line, I picked up a CD version of Into the Outdoor, and you listen to it, that song didn't age as well. It was kind of my attitude was that song didn't age as well. Then one day, I pulled out, and not just a couple of years ago, I pulled out the album that I had at the time, the original album, and I put it on. And the one thing that jumped out at me was Southbound Soiree. It sounded great. And you go, I do like this. It's a lively, bouncy song. And it's not necessarily one thing is better or worse, but it's, every time you get a reissue of any kind, there's a certain amount of change happens to the sound. You won't notice it necessarily unless you're really paying attention, but it happens. And so, songs that you think maybe, that didn't age so well, it's just you're hearing them differently. It's not you that's changed, it's the song that actually changed. Not always, but that happens. So it may be a case of, this will come out and we'll all go, for some reason I like this better, but I don't know why I like this better. And that's what I'm hoping for, that the real sound improvement has happened. Because it's one I don't listen to very often, and I do think that's, when I think about it, that's probably what it is it just doesn't sound as good to me. It's not as pleasant to the ears. The performance is great. There's great songs on it. There's more material than others, but it's the live album of theirs I'm least likely to put on. So I'm not enthusiastic about this re-release. Oh well, but it may be that they adjust the sound enough that it could become, suddenly your favorite album. But that's taking the optimistic view. The downside is this is just a money grab, and the truth is probably somewhere in between the two things. The thing to note: this March 23rd, this will be released. It's going to be on LP, CD. 4 LPs, 3 CDs, a deluxe box set, and so on and so forth. Also, all the versions. This is not part of the 50th anniversary celebrations. This is the last of the remasters. This is the end of the remastering campaign. The 50th anniversary celebrations begin in September. They did announce that in September there will be 50th anniversary celebrations. There will be releases that come with that. What is that going to be? We don't know. No idea. But there are rumors. The rumors are starting to fly. That there are some tracks from their first album they recorded at Olympia Studios in London. There are some tracks still hanging around the vaults from that session. There's also rumors of some live stuff from those early days. And the thing is that the trick is, see, you think they're doing you a favor as a fan. It's going to be 50 years. They're going to put out this. They have tapes of this show and that show and that show, and they get this old song, and finally they're going to let you hear this old song. The truth is, there's copyright issues involved. 50 years, and I think it's a European. I don't think it's an American thing. I think it's a European thing. But there is a deal with, and I'm not a lawyer, and this is complex, but there's the 50th anniversary. If something is 50 years old and you have never used it, you have not released it in any way, shape, or form. You have not you have not staked your claim on it. You have to stake your claim on something. The same goes for instance, if you have a logo and your company hasn't used the logo in X number of years, it suddenly becomes available again. You have to renew. The same would happen with this. So that's basically what happened with these songs. If they don't release, if it was recorded in September in Olympia Studios, come November or October or even, or September, whatever the 50 years plus one day, it would become public domain. They no longer would have, they could release it, but they couldn't exclusively release it. If somebody else could get their hands on the tapes, somebody else would be legally within their rights to release it as public domain. Just like anybody, you could start a publishing company today. You could buy a printer, start printing books using Charles Dickens's books, and you can sell those. You can put a cover on them. You can sell them. And those words, his books, are no longer in copyright. The same thing would apply here. So they would no longer have exclusive domain over any of them, even though it's their material, even though they're still alive. If they didn't use it in 50 years, it's deemed to be in the public domain. So, and that's the gist of the issue. So expect to see a lot of, if there's anything hanging around, kind of expect to see it come out. And so the rumors are some shows from late '68 that they may have sitting around. Possibly some studio stuff from the first album sessions. Rumor strong. There is a rumor even that there's a tape of the first rehearsal, which would have happened in August, so they would have to release it before that. But and I don't know. Maybe you can, let the Copyright Office know we're releasing this in September, even though it's from August, and that would be fine. There may be technicals around that. There are ways, I don't actually believe there's a tape of any quality of the first rehearsal. There may be a tape of it somewhere, but there is one of the books that was released in the last number of years had a quote from, I think it was Robert Plant, saying, "When I heard the tape," he's talking about the first rehearsal of that famous first rehearsal. Robert Plant saying, "When I heard the tape back, when I heard the playback of the tape, I was blown away." I can't remember what book it is, and I've never been able to track down the quote. I've not, killed myself trying to, but I've only ever seen it in that book, so who knows if he actually said it or if that's an error. But it's rumored to be out there, a tape of that first show or the first rehearsal. So maybe that's what's being rumored right now. I would not expect that. That would shock me if that came out. If there's anything from, there's rumors that they did Train Kept Rolling and maybe one or two other things, and maybe there's one or two songs, but there wasn't enough when he did the first album to release new material. As new material, he put together the live show from '68. It would make more sense too if he has lots of studio material from that era sitting around to release that with the first album and then start doing the live shows now. So I don't know that. I personally expect live shows out of this. No real studio material, but there may be one or two tracks lying around that get thrown in. All right, Robert Plant has announced some tour dates. I mentioned last week there was a festival, and I didn't have the details on the festival. So here it is now, May 26, 2018, Walton upon Trent in the UK, the Bearded Theory Festival. And yeah, about 40 bands, and I knew one other one, and I forget who that was now. And then on the next day, 27th of May, he returns to the Bath Festival. Which, by the way, is of the stuff that we expect from Led Zeppelin 50th anniversary and stuff. The Bath Festival is in the rumor mill, only because it's known to have been at least videoed, so possibly there's a recording, of quality enough recording. But that's one of the ones that's out there. We'll see. Then there's July, and then there's a little European tour. That was just announced this week. July 22nd in Carhaix, France, the Ville Chateau Festival. July 23rd in Paris at the Salle Playa. July 25th at he's taking my birthday off. My birthday is 24th, so he's taking my birthday off, as all people should do. In the Carcassonne, France, the Festival of Carcassonne. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing these right. I'm willing to bet not. The 29th of July in Lörrach, Germany, at the Stimmen Festival. The 31st of July at Pardubice in the Czech Republic at the Tipsport Arena. And the 1st of August in Dresden, Germany at a Junge Guard. All right, and now let's get to it. Now my stuffy nose needs to be blown, so I'm going to be real quick on this. I had a wonderful opportunity to get on the phone, get on Skype with Jim McCarty, the drummer of the Yardbirds from 1963, 62, 63 until they broke up in 68, and then the reunited Yardbirds in the 90s all the way through to the current day. Jim McCarty, who is, and as I say in the interview, one of the first things I said to him, the only drummer ever to be one half of a rhythm section with Jimmy Page on bass. So that's, or actually maybe, is there any top 10 guitarists in the world who played bass at some point? So a kind of a unique experience, and I'll let you hear his answers. But yeah, I have about a half-hour interview with Jim McCarty, and he was a lovely man. I'm amazed when I get a chance to talk to these guys. These soft, beautiful English accents they have. You kind of expect them to be a little gruff, and they're rock stars, right? So you expect those, but they don't. He's this lovely English accent. He's a very nice gentleman, and I enjoyed talking to him really thoroughly. And I hope he enjoyed it too, and I hope you enjoy this interview. Here's Jim McCarty from the Yardbirds.
In 1963, he joined the Metropolitan Blues Quartet. In September, they would change their name to the Yardbirds, where they succeeded the Rolling Stones as the house band at the Crawdaddy Club, and opened for the Beatles in 1964. After the departure of lead guitarist Top Topham in October 63, Jim McCarty would be the drummer for the next 5 years in a band that featured Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page as lead guitarists. Jim McCarty has performed and recorded with the Yardbirds together, Renaissance, Shoot, Illusion, Box of Frogs, Stairway, the British Invasion All-Stars, and Pilgrim, as well as under his own name and as the Jim McCarty Band. Since 1992, he has been playing with the reformed Yardbirds. Jim McCarty, welcome to Ramble on Radio.
Thank you very much, Brian. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you. I'm excited about this, actually.
Yeah, sounds like you've done your homework there.
Well, yeah, I've been following you guys for years, since I was a kid, so...
Okay, great.
Yeah, you guys actually started the year I was born, so...
Oh, right, yes.
So, to make you feel a little old.
Yeah, I do feel a bit old now you said that.
Apologies. I was curious, in 66, Jimmy Page joined the Yardbirds, and originally as a bass player, which makes you the only drummer ever to be in a rhythm section with Jimmy Page.
Yes.
Or any other top 10 guitarist that I can think of, actually.
Yes, that's quite strange, isn't it?
Yeah. What was he like as a bass player?
You know what? I don't know if I remember, but I'm sure he was very good.
Yeah. Well, I've always been told, I play guitar too, and I've always been told that guitar players have a tendency to play bass like guitar players. That's the quote everybody
Yes,
uses.
that's right. Yeah, he was, but he was very keen to join us, because we'd asked him before when Eric left, and he was playing lots of sessions in London, playing on people's records, and he didn't want to stop that at the time. But then a bit later, he was fed up with it, so he wanted to go out on the road.
Right. And when did you actually first become aware? Because he was on the scene around the same time as you guys joined the scene in '63. When did you first become aware of him, hear him?
Well, I'd heard the name. I never saw him play with any of those bands he played with. What was it? The Crusaders and all those bands.
Yeah, Neil Christian and the Crusaders.
Neil
right?
Christian, yeah. I didn't see them, but he used to come to our shows, and he knew our manager, Giorgio Gamelski.
Right.
And so he'd come with him, and I remember meeting him at a gig when we were playing with Eric, and he was with Jackie DeShannon.
Oh, yeah. Songwriter.
Yes.
Angel of the Morning she wrote, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And Needles and Pins was the one I remember.
That's right, yeah. Just trying to place her for people who had never heard of her,
Yes.
And then, as well as Page, John Paul Jones actually played the same era, right? Around '66, played some bass with you guys too.
Yeah, well, John Paul and Jimmy used to play a lot of sessions together, and John Paul came in and helped on little games. He played on some of the little game stuff, and he played on Happenings 10 years time ago.
Right.
And he was great. He was a great guy to play with.
Yeah, really a musician, more than just a bass player.
Oh yeah, great keyboard player and
arranger.
All round nice guy.
Yeah. Well, almost the last question of the era, but after Page, Chris Dreja went to bass, and you've worked with Chris for years and years after even.
Yes.
But due to ill health, he had to drop out a few years back.
Yes.
How is he?
He's okay. He's okay, but he won't be able to play. He can't. He had a series of strokes.
Okay.
And I think that came about from smoking.
Yeah.
So I always tell people to pack up smoking because I've seen it work. I've seen the horrors of it.
Right.
And so he won't be able to play, and he won't be able to travel. So, but he's okay. He can get by, and he lives in London. He's quite comfortable. He's got people looking after him, and
it's good to hear he's okay. Unfortunately, he won't be able to play anymore.
Of course, he's very pleased about the new album coming out. The Anderson Theatre.
Yeah, and actually, nice lead-in. That was my next question. I was reading an article on Anderson Theatre just this morning, actually, that I stumbled across. What do you remember about that show?
I remember. I remember it being recorded, and doing a. I vaguely remember doing a couple of, because we did 2 different sets or 2 different shows, which I had forgotten about, and it was just another gig to us. It was all over and done with, sort of thing, very quickly. And but I do remember hearing the recording with the dubbed audience, and the very quickly done sound quality wasn't too good.
Yeah, and I've actually always liked that album.
Yes.
But I mean, for your perspective, it must have been awful, because it really sounds like you have a single drum.
Yeah, I know it wasn't good. I was sort of used to that in the day, because they didn't take too much notice of getting a drum sound in those days,
right.
For recordings. But Jimmy has done a great job on it to get it sounding like it does now.
Yeah, he has. It's the one thing you really notice is, there's the drum sound is really there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. How did it come about that he managed to remaster it? Do you know?
Well, it's a very, very long story. It goes back probably 12 years. Fun enough, I think I was in Toronto at the time. I was staying with a friend, a guy called Ron Korb, who's a flute player, and his manager rang me up there and wanted to know about the tapes, and said Jimmy was looking for the Anderson Theatre tapes, and also Jimmy rang up in France and was looking for them, and so I had various dialogues with his manager at the time. It was a guy called Peter Mensch, and Peter said, I'm going to manage Jimmy, but one of my things with the management is that he has to release that album, because that was one of my favourite albums ever, the Anderson Theatre, and he has to re-release it, otherwise I won't manage it. So I tried to help as best I could, suggesting where the tapes may be, and we couldn't get anywhere, and it all went quiet, which it does, in this business. It gets very hot and cold. And then, much more recently, I heard that Jimmy had found the tapes, and he'd had them all the time, and found them, and done a job on them, done the remix. And Chris and I were invited in a studio to have a listen, and we went over to London and thought it sounded great,
Yeah, it does.
And very pleased about it. I know some people like you, they still love the album, and I guess, for you, it's probably an improvement, is it?
Yeah, it's definitely it's a great improvement. It's a great. You guys played great that night, probably every night, or most nights anyway. But it's nice to get a really good sound of that album.
Yes, it's quite a shock, really, because at that time in our career, we were starting to lose interest a bit and get a bit tired, and lost a lot of motivation for being on the road and everything. And I'm surprised it sounds so really energetic. It really does.
That's the good description for it too. It is. It's very, very up there, live sounding and exciting sounding.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Besides the Anderson Theatre, you guys have released a number of stuff for Record Store Day in the last bunch of years.
Yes. The Yardbirds. That I think that was probably Demon, or one of the German labels. Released some vinyl of us, didn't they?
Yeah, definitely Little Games and Birdland, right?
Yeah.
And some singles.
Birdland, yeah. And EMI probably released Little Games. And then I did my own album, Frontman, which was released by a friend of mine in in Illinois called Craig Moore, and we did rather well on that as well. So we've done well on these things.
Good. And on Birdland. Oh, would there be another release this year on Record Store Day? Do you know? Or
I'm not sure. Craig, the same guy that released the Frontman's, calls saying, "Oh, you should get the new one, your new one out." So that might be a possibility.
Oh, that'd be nice. Yeah. Is it going to be the new one on vinyl? I think I saw it.
Well, I hope so. I'm gonna work on it. It's going to be on CD, but we'll work on a vinyl as well.
Good. I much prefer that.
Yes.
And so on the Birdland album, there was a song called "An Original Man."
Yes.
Which is a dedication to Keith.
Yes.
Tell me, what was he like? What was Keith like?
Well, he was a great guy to know. I got very friendly with him towards the end of the group, and we used to share hotel rooms together, and we'd have quite a lot of laughs and a lot of chats and talk about the universe and everything else. He was a very talented guy, but he was always having problems with his. With his chest and stuff, a lot of physical problems.
Oh yeah.
He only had one lung, so it must have been difficult for him to play harmonica the way he did.
Yeah, no kidding.
And he didn't have a very strong voice, but he had a very individual voice, and he had some great ideas for writing. As we wrote a lot of stuff with Renaissance and a bit later too. So we got on really well.
Good. Yeah. The Renaissance is the one album I've never been able to find.
Oh really? What, the first album?
Yeah, I've stumbled across some of the later ones, but I've never been able to find that first one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one day it'll turn up.
You're looking for it on vinyl?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll have to dig one out for you there somewhere.
That'd be nice. Yeah, it's always good to have something on the list that you're looking for.
Yes.
Otherwise, you have to stop going to record shows.
Yes, it's incredible how vinyl's come back, isn't it?
Isn't it?
That's great. It's great news.
Yeah, I've actually never got rid of mine. I always had it. So.
Oh, great.
A couple of last questions about Yardbirds days, and then we'll get on the new CD. You succeeded the Rolling Stones as the house band at Crawdaddy. What was that like in those days? The Crawdaddy Club and that whole scene in London at the time.
Oh well, it was crazy there. But the Crawdaddy, we played every week. From the first week we played, we were taken up by the crowd. We were a bit worried to follow the Stones, but they loved us straight away. So. We were very pleased about that, and it was all very exciting. People went crazy and, swung on the beams and jumped on each other's shoulders and all that stuff.
Right.
But it wasn't a big club. It was only about 300 people or something like that. So, but it was part of the scene, and we played a lot of other similar things, but nothing quite like that.
Yeah.
But we played all around London, and then we, gradually had hit records and moved away.
Right. You also appeared in the movie Blow Up.
Yes.
Which is quite a riotous scene, actually, in the movie. What was that like filming that?
Quite funny because it took a long time. It took a few days to do that.
Yeah.
I think that the scene lasts a couple of minutes. I think we were recording that, for about 5 days. It was sort of an odd experience, but quite interesting, and it was very weird. I always thought how Antonioni had all the people standing there staring without doing anything, and that wasn't the case for the real live gigs. Everyone would go mad.
Right. And the last one I had was the Beatles. You opened up for them in '64?
Yeah, we played with them a couple of times. We played at their Christmas show, 1964. We were on with other groups, but we were the local group. The other groups were all from Liverpool, I think.
Right.
And yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
But,
Were you guys
great fun playing with the Beatles? Always was.
Yeah. Now later on, the Beatles became to other musicians. They just absolutely idolized them. But you guys were contemporaries. What were they like for you? Were you awed by their success and by them as well, or?
Oh yeah, we really liked them. Yeah, they were great, and they were nice people. They were fun, and they were always cracking jokes, and very, very entertaining. All sort of quite extrovert, and we used to bump into them quite a bit. I used to bump into Paul quite a bit, and yeah, we didn't spend a lot of time with them. They were all off somewhere else. But
right.
We played in Paris with them as well, which was great.
Nice. Yeah, it's hard to imagine a world where you bump into Paul McCartney, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't that funny? You used to do that on King's Road in London.
Yeah.
Go in one of the shops, one of the clothes shops.
Yeah.
Quite strange.
Yeah, the whole time and place and time, it always seems such a small world it must have been.
Yeah, it was. We all sort of knew each other, all the groups, but we were all trying to outdo each other as well.
Yeah.
We were all rivals, and we didn't see each other during the evening until we might have met in a nightclub after we played.
Right. Okay, let's get to you. Have a new CD coming out. It will be released.
Yeah. I recorded that in Toronto, funny enough, where you are.
Right, yeah. I picked that up at Nimbus 9. Is that?
Number 9, number 9 studio.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact address, but it's down near Cabbagetown.
Yeah, down Young and Dundas area, right?
Yes.
A few blocks east.
Yes.
And I think I read somewhere you recorded with a cast of Canadian musicians. Who was on it?
Yeah. Well, I did mainly with the musicians. Was a bass player I know called George Kohler, and he was someone that played on the album I did before called "Sitting on the Top of Time." And we did a lot of the stuff together with a keyboard player. I'm trying to remember his name. I know it's Reynolds. I remember it in a minute.
Okay, yeah, I understand that.
But we had various other musicians playing. The most famous was the guitar player from Rush.
Alex Lifeson.
Alex Lifeson, who played on the one track, "Soft in a Hard Place," and the rest of the time it was not a great deal of musicians, but some really good ones,
Right.
They weren't well known, but Terry Brown helped with it, and he mixed the album. And Terry's a great friend of mine,
right?
And because he worked with Rush originally.
Yeah, he produced them in the early days, right?
Yes,
yeah.
And the keyboard player was Tom Reynolds, who's a great guy and a very, very, very good pianist.
Right. And so, what is psychedelic folk rock? Is what it's being.
Well, I don't know what they call it. All sorts of things, don't they? It's sort of folky. Yes, it's a sort of folky thing. Yeah, I like to sing, so it's me singing. It's quite different from the Yardbird stuff.
Right.
But,
so would that be mostly acoustic music?
It's acoustic, but I play acoustic guitar on it. But it's sort of a mixture. It's a mixture. Some of it's quite rocky.
Right. And early April, it's out, right?
It's out in I think it's March or April.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's March in the UK and maybe April in the US and Canada.
Okay. Yeah.
But I should be coming over to plug it, so I'll come over and try and do a record, a release party.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to try and get out to that if I can.
Yeah, I'll make it known whereabouts it is. It'll be down in Toronto somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I just looked it up. It's March 9th. It's listed on Amazon UK.
Yes.
So.
I did a gig last year at a place called the Burdock.
Right.
Which was quite a nice place it's down west, Toronto West.
Oh, okay.
So it might be there, or it might be at a slightly bigger place, like Hughes Room or somewhere like that.
Right. Yeah, that'd be actually somewhere west is perfect for me, but.
Yes.
Yeah. But you're doing a launch on April 5th in London.
Yes.
At Eel Pie Club.
Yes.
Which is we've talked about it. It's another famous club.
Yes, it's a sort of club that's been going. It's a sort of extension of the music on Eel Pie Island that used to happen in the 60s.
Right.
Where the Stones used to play, and we played there, and lots of other bands, Long John Baldry, and lots of sort of bluesy. It started as a jazz venue, and then turned into a sort of blues rock venue, you know. But it's no longer there. The venue's no longer there. It's in the town centre of Twickenham, above a pub. But it's a good atmosphere.
Okay. And it's not just you, but I can't remember who else.
It's with Judy Dybel, who was in the Fairports.
Right.
So she's doing a set, and I'm doing a set.
Oh, so that'll be a good night.
Yeah, and we'll do a couple of numbers together.
Okay. Good. And that's.
And that would be to release the book as well. I have a book coming out.
Oh, okay. Tell me about the book. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, so I've been working on the book for a few years now. It'll be, I'm writing it with Dave Thompson, who's an English guy, and that's all about, my life from square one.
So an autobiography?
How I got into music, yeah.
Right.
And obviously covers all the Yardbirds stories and all sorts of things that I'm not telling you.
Okay. I'll have to read the book, right?
Yeah, but it includes some of these things I'm telling you as well.
Good. Yeah, actually, Dave Thompson, he did one of my favorite music books he wrote. A thing called Why I Hate New Music.
Oh, right, okay. He's a good writer.
Yeah, and it's quite a funny look at where the music business went wrong, really.
Yes.
Yeah, so I know him well, yeah.
Oh, good.
Okay, that's all I got.
Okay, Brian. Well, that's great. I'm glad to have done it.
I'm tickled pink that you came on. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks very much.
And I'll try and see if you do a launch in Toronto. I'll try and get out and see that.
Yeah, I'll try and I'll let you know, Brian.
Perfect. Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
But that's So Jim McCarty, as you hear, he was quite nice, and new CD. So it's available on Amazon. I have not seen it yet on iTunes. Possibly a release up for Record Store Day for LP for him, and by God, and there's other Jim McCarty albums out there. Can't recommend enough the Yardbirds 68. Can't recommend. How'd you like the bit about Jimmy Page's manager, Peter Minch, who's no longer his manager, but was for about 10 years? Like the bit of saying, I'll manage you, but you have to release the Anderson Theatre tapes. That's so I guess we got Peter Minch to thank for the Yardbirds 68. And that part of the interview, by the way, I have up on the webpage. It went up on Thursday morning, 8 a.m. Thursday morning. I think I released it for, and I transcribed it, and that's a little promotion for the whole thing here. But so that's so I thought I really like that. Unfortunately, he doesn't remember much about playing with Jimmy on bass. I was really hoping to get a story or three in there. I was hoping that was going to be one of those questions that opened things up, but didn't happen. But the Anderson Theater question really did kind of open them up. You never know what their recollections are going to be, and I'm really hoping he gets to Toronto and does a show, and I can get out and see him, and that'll be great. He's what a nice guy. And for me, as I'm sure a lot of you people guys would feel, that was such an honor to talk to a guy like Jim McCarty, who's been a musician I've followed since I was 12 or 14 years old. And I wouldn't say I was a big Jim McCarty fan. The Yardbirds, by the time I was growing up, were guys that you didn't really know who they specifically were, in the way you knew modern, Led Zeppelin at the time. You knew who all the guys in the band were. But certainly musically, I've followed him for almost all my life. And so it was a real treat to talk to him. Just one of those little honors. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. So that's it. I'm going to wrap that up. That's Ramble on Radio, episode 138. Check out rambleonradio.com for notes on this week's podcast. Led Zeppelin news, reviews, and any links I might mention today's podcast. And I've been very, very good about putting stuff on the website in the last week, too. So, keep up with that. rambleonradio.com, and make it part of your everyday web surfing. It should keep you up to date on the important Led Zeppelin news. Follow Ramble on Radio on Facebook, at Ramble on Blog on Twitter. And you can subscribe to Ramble on Radio through iTunes. If you go to iTunes, leave a review. It helps Apple's algorithms find the podcast, which helps other people find the podcast. On Google Play, you can find us on Google Play. And again, same thing. If there's a possibility to review it there, please do. You can listen on Stitcher Radio and on Spreaker. Follow Ramble on Radio on Spreaker. Nah, don't bother. Actually, download from I Am Brian Dammit on Podbean, and check out Ramble on Radio on YouTube, where this and other podcasts, other episodes, can be viewed as well as listened. If you are a YouTube follower, give me a couple of days beyond for this one. This isn't a straight podcast. I'm going to have to cut in the interview and put some sort of visual over top. Hopefully, some pictures of some records, or and whatever he's talking about, I'll have a picture of it or something. But I have not gotten very good yet at editing stuff in for video, so this may take me a few days longer to get it on YouTube, and I apologize for that. But I will get it up so the YouTube people can hear that fabulous interview too. Thanks for listening to Ramble on Radio, episode 138, and we're going to close it out with the last 5 minutes, I believe, of When the Levee Breaks live, Chicago, 1975, the only time that we can confirm they actually played this live in front of an audience, and so on and so forth.
This is another track from the new album.